you, everyone, for letting me come out and read. New England Review, thank you. I'm going to be reading mostly, I think maybe all of my poems will be from my upcoming thesis project. I'm working on a sort of poetic, I guess, reflection on my time abroad in France and being an American and specifically a woman abroad. So I'm going to start out with the poem that I wrote last spring that sort of inspired my thesis, I guess. So this is the first one that I wrote. Book of Hours. Maybe it's the impulse of deliverance, plucking me like marionette strings. In Avignon, a slow return to English follows the curve of a harp body. My love for the livre d'heure turns winding and medieval. In other words, I stutter at ma belle and find shrew bones on the cobblestones. There is something natural in the untaming of letters and the untangling Shakespeare. My word, dangling. At a hostel in Marseille, I write numbers in soft pencil on a bathroom wall and move into the moonlight of an American bar. Trying to translate Eliot, I think maybe not everything is referential. My love, cross-culturally deficient. Still, I cross myself in a Chartres cathedral, believing God knows no words. Reflections from a painting at Rothko Chapel. The insular American in an octagonal room, I see textured blue as unjust loss. How to fathom the artist's palette working in the wake of war, or my grandmother in bits of blue waiting on a white widow's walk. There is a relativism to these paintings depending on light and where you stand. Gray of Soviet or gray of Normandy. It's all in all the Atlantic yawn. Say Rothko returned to Latvia. Say my grandfather came back from France. It would have been with velvet heart, purple heart, weighted proof of soil. It would have been with a mouth full of steel wool and a lung full of stones. I know so little about missing, only that it is worthy of worship. What if I lied? What if I said I knew absence? He was a part of a phalanx in Mycenae. I played the part of a good Penelope. What if I wrote a whole epic of our love? His hair would heather like old paint. His palms would roughen like brushstroke. I know my pain is not as exquisite as ancestors and artists, but I'm trying to imagine what she would feel, what he would feel, had they seen this voided blue, had they breathed this nullified gray, the artist missing and not missed. Had they watched the strokes bleed like tally marks, charting the wreckage of no one's love. This next poem is called Killjoy. The boy with the bread in his hair asked her word for livre. She said book, like the K was the end of the conversation. He said book, like the K was too light for enunciation. She remembered the tiny entry under K in her French dictionary. Every word translated like the whole country never knew such sonic hardness existed until adopting kangaroo sometime in the past 200 years. He said, "What words have you there?" pointing to her paperback. She thought, and they think Americans are the loudest, and showed him her Zola, leaving a lovely name lovingly unsaid. He said, difficile, and then read her bookmark, a flyer she found in the bathroom of a cafe outside of town. It was for a special David Lynch screening at the cinema for last Saturday. He said he liked David Lynch. Would she care to go with him? She found that an odd proposal, given the macabre of ears and fields and the whole thing being over and all, but only said, no merci, in truth, because she was thinking of the mellow 50s music in all his films, how the sounds always slid so smooth, even though in English. This next poem is about the Book of Kells, which, for those of you that don't know, I didn't do my research, Dad, do you know when this was? Okay, my dad's a history teacher. Okay, anyways, it's one of the earliest, I guess, if not the earliest transcriptions of the Bible that we have, and it's at Trinity College in Dublin. And it survived in part because these Irish monks were isolated from the mainland, so during the time of destruction through the Middle Ages, it survived, and you can go and look at it, and they have one spread open. So, Book of Kells, illuminated. Knowing nothing of monk and manuscript, nor caverns and cliffside, and all my lyric lost, I found the single spread a sanctuary, something saving in the animals, penned into letters, the capitals, tangled with tongues and eyes, snakes and eagles, knit together in nihilistic knots, and beyond that, the flaxen weave, the Celtic helix, pleated gold turning script-like, the same hybridity of word and image as the famous spreads that lay somewhere beneath this one, the four apostles morphing slowly into beasts and angel, the Christ in majesty in indigo, with knees buckled scarlet. Don't tell me I'm not Irish, or that this is not what an ox looks like. Don't tell me Jesus was just an animal, or that it's all one lie, oblivious to the light of gravity and astronomy and the constellations beyond this cave in Hibernia. The book is like a pit holding the flesh of the Trinity Library together, the solar epicenter to the many-paged moons in their wooden cases above. Swift, Yeats, Joyce, the agnostics and the scientists. They were only followers. The book is like Hephaestus, who, after fashioning the weaponry of words and worship, watches the youth battle after. Tributary. I remember the color of human form from below a bay window in France, the new smell of anatomy and cobblestones on a Sunday, the last leaving of him and his big room for a swelling medieval street. And that was natural, the return to river, the flow from tributary to body, the slow slide to what I called home. The pull downstream by the toes, hair floating, limbs weighted, such an Ophelia in the flowers. Of course there would be drainage, the infant drowning by the thinnest trickle, the water growing more and more polluted with each day after. That city rings up the mountain by strata of virtue, the oldest cathedral at the top, the not quite Christian baptistery near the base. He can wash his hands clean of me and of remembering before rain hits road. He can enter a church and let the holy dot drip down his nose. He can dally in pools without the coming current. This is my current, his second coming. Last weekend, I almost drove into the Atlantic. I was thinking of how inland he lives, safe from sweat and fury and salt, from the madness that comes with water. On days I'm calm, I'll think of floral and chamomile, of things dry and divine, of how he spent a night steeped inside my skin. You see, I can't even write this properly. I can't read. What I want to say is I owe all the happiness of my life to you. Love sickness, this is too archetypal. How can I say it any better when the last words of love have already been said 1,000 times before and by 1,000 lovelier women? On days I'm mad, I'll think of stones in pockets and what very well might happen to any woman so far from saving. I forgot to say in that part of that poem is Virginia Woolf's, an excerpt from Virginia Woolf's suicide note. That's not something to laugh about, sorry. And it's just really depressing. Anyways, that's why I did the quote thing. I should have said that before, but yes. Okay, I guess I'll read one more. Sure. One more. Homecoming, evensong. What I was afraid of laid me on a big wooden bed. Alpine frame with a little mountain carved side and the wood posts rough still from the making. Thinking sawdust and light bug, even when I said no. We flung white sheets ballooning on the porch. Is it strange now that friends shift friends and lovers lovers? What are we doing in these big houses, so often so empty? The same smell, the same lung catch, and yet the tenderness in the last coming home, as if we were all tuned to the finality, as if that merited a greater gentleness from when change used to bother me. The slow blink of plain lights, the eye-burned sky of maybe what I loved, the knot that pulls without asking, the hope that something would come of something, the hope one wouldn't leave for war. You, my Russophile, you, my ex-Soviet darling, you know nothing of eloquence. And this is called inevitable. Come the fall, the mossing over of mouths. Come the poem, the final recitation. City, my city, love, my love, all of us gone.